I can't wait to get you all alone. Once I'm in, there ain't no letting go. Mind games until you lose control. You already know who it is. My name is Sick Kick. Welcome to Sick Mix Part 9. Let's get it.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? I repeat, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? We're gonna have a problem here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, traders? What's going on? Welcome back and happy Money Monday. Boy, am I excited to be here. I am ready to get to work with you guys. I am excited to see what the market has in store for us today. Ooh, and like Corey said, December's here, baby. We got 1 month to dial the F in. I mean, I was getting ready to say the F word, but we may have kids present. So we're here to dial the F in for 2024. Guys, let's just crush it, man. I'm super excited for today. I'm super excited to see what the month of December has in store for us and really just continuing this amazing momentum that we've had over the past few months. Like, the last few months have been some of the best months in a while. Market providing us with killer opportunity. You guys have been crushing it. You guys have been on fire. So, again, just keep up the amazing work. Keep doing exactly what you're doing that's working, that's moving the needle forward, that's driving your success, that's allowing you to be profitable in the market. Like Corey said, dial in, keep doing those things consistently, fix the things that need to be fixed, and let's get ready for 2024 because 2024 is going to be your freaking year. So take the next 30 days to make it happen, to get that structure, to take, initiative. What are your goals? What are your intentions? Get clear on those things, right? And just put in that work. Keep doing what you're doing, and you guys will absolutely crush it this month, and you guys will have an amazing 2024, and 2024 will be your year. So before we dive into the pre-market rundown, guys, hit me with a big old Alpha Day Trading. Good morning and happy Money Monday. I want to see who is inside of chat right now at this point in time. Who is ready to rock and roll this morning? Because you already know I am, guys. What's up, everybody? You got Stir in the house. What's up, brother? Trader Adam, Craig. What's up, Craig? Corey, again, good morning. Kevin, good morning. Steve, what's up, Mr. Steve? I know we had a few other stragglers in here this morning. Trader Adam, Shannon, Jonathan, what's up? Thomas K, Lucian, Trucker Ed. Woo! What's up, guys? Good morning. Oh, hold on. This it's a little blurry. Give me uno second. One minute. Wow, that was really blurry there for a second. My bad, guys, over on YouTube. Good morning as well over on YouTube. I understand it was super blurry. It was just a setting on my computer. It should be phenomenal now, guys. It should be absolutely stupendous. But everybody over on YouTube, good morning as well. Welcome to the pre-market rundown. Happy to have you here. We got Johnny Dalla, Tom over on YouTube, and then everybody else. Hit me with a big old good morning as well. Steve, Shannon, Trader Adam, Craig, everybody inside the chat. What's up, guys and girls? Good morning and happy Money Monday. We're officially going to dive into it. So, as always, what do? We start with the pre-market rundown. My goodness. We start with the economic calendar just to make sure there's nothing that we need to be mindful of for today. Sometimes you have data dropping right at market open, 10 o'clock, 10:30, and you got to be really, really mindful, especially if you're trading large cap option plays. If you're trading penny stocks, no worry, right? Economic data releases will not usually affect a penny stock, right? So you're pretty much in the clear. But if you're trading the SPY, if you're trading QQQ, or some of these top large cap plays, then you got to be mindful of what's going on in the economic calendar because, hey, you may come in, be in a really heavy position, JOLTS job data drops at, say, 10:30, and that thing goes against you by 2 points, and you're like, whoa, I'm down 50%. Well, if you just take the time to do the little things consistently, you'll be mindful of everything going on for the day. So today, looking at the economic calendar for Monday, December 4th, you are pretty much in the clear. You have nothing going on today, but tomorrow, be mindful at 10 o'clock, you do have ISM services PMI data dropping, and you have JOLTS job openings tomorrow at 10 a.m. So be mindful of that for tomorrow. But today, you are pretty much in the clear, guys. Okay, so right into the SPY, right into the technicals. Let's talk about what we going on. What are my expectations? What's my game plan for the day? How am I looking to come in, take amazing trades, and make money? All right, so a couple key things that I want you guys to really be mindful of and really go ahead and get prepared and mark up those charts and get ready to rock. And the first thing that really stands out to me, guys, is we had this multi-day uptrend here on the SPY. So if you go back into like Thursday's lows, you see that we had Thursday's low of day, right? That would be a 0.1 of the trend line. You have 1, 2, nearly 3 connection points there on Friday. Let's call that just one big point. Point number 2, and then what'd you see here in pre-market? You came down to that trend line, you bounced. Came back down to the trend line, you bounced. But then we just cracked that trend line, going from the bullish side of the trend line now to the bearish side of the trend line. So that's the first thing that I want you guys to really have identified on your charts, is that you had this really nice uptrend. And now you are cracking that uptrend, going from the bullish side to the bearish side. Number one. Number 2 is you have this key zone of support that we're currently coming down into. Okay, so this key level of support here on the SPY is going to be this zone between 456.40 and 456.76. That's going to be my line in the sand for today. Okay, my lits, my line in the sand, my make or break level for the SPY is going to be this daily zone between 456.40 and 456.78. Okay, so we just cracked that trend line. We went from the bullish side to the bearish side. Now we're coming down into this very key level of support. If we actually crack that key level of support, we fall below it, come back up into it, for example, and we actually stay below it as resistance after we just cracked that uptrend, that looks very bearish, and we have a lot of great potential to the downside today. Your first target to the downside would be Friday's lows, right here around the mid 455s, right? So your first target to the downside right there up against Friday's lows, okay? Then your final target to the downside, your next key level of daily support is going to be down here between 453.90 and 454.22 here on the SPY. That would be your main price target, Okay, that would be like your final PT, your final price target if we do fall below and stay below that zone of daily resistance. Okay, first target again, Friday's lows. Final target to the downside, that daily zone of support between 453.90 and 454.22 here on the SPY. But who's to say that's going to happen? Yeah, we cracked the uptrend. We may fall below that zone and drop on off to the downside today. That would be fantastic. We have a couple separate reasons that do suggest some downside today. But that may not happen. Just because we cracked the trend line doesn't mean we're falling below that zone of support. Doesn't mean we're going to retest it as resistance and continue lower. It's very, very possible that the SPY holds that line in the sand. And so that's going to be a key area, again, to keep on watch, not just to see if it cracks for the short opportunity, but if we come down into the zone and we hold on up and we see that we have more buyers than sellers and this zone is holding up with some strength, then hey, we have some great upside today. Where could we see the SPY go? I would say the SPY would most likely come up and close the gap into Friday's close. So Friday we closed at 459.10. So if we're going to see the SPY open on up, hold that line in the sand zone. That's a key significant zone. If the SPY holds on up and we see more long opportunity, more upside, where do I think the SPY could be going today? I would say the SPY has potential to push on up and at least close this gap because we're going to be gapping down today. We hold that key zone of support. I would say the SPY has potential to push on up and close the gap. Where's the gap? Into Friday's close, which would be 459.10 here on the SPY. Okay, and so that's going to be the initial game plan for the day. Now, anything can change when the market opens, but good thing that we're here inside of chat, right? We're going to continue to be here until noon, and if we see the market shift, if we see the market do something else besides these two initial game plans, we'll have the opportunity to rebuild those plans, get prepared, and take advantage of the opportunity in front of us. But for right now, before the market opens, we have two plans in place. And it really comes down to this line in the sand, that key zone of support that is between 456.40 and 456.76. If we hold this zone on up, I'd look to play calls up to a gap fill, which is in Friday's close. That's going to be 459.10. We fall below that line in the sand, stay below it, I'm looking to play puts for the next leg down into that daily zone of support, which again is between 453.90 and 454.22. Now, with both of these plans, right, the long plan and the potential short plan, right, these are your main targets, but there will be pit stops along the way up. There will be pit stops along the way down, right? A pit stop, a profit target along the way down is again going to be Friday's lows. A pit stop along the way up, like another profit target before you get to your main profit target, I would say back up into these lows here from Friday. We broke that zone of resistance, came back down, we held it, and we tried to move up a little bit. So that's going to be like the first area of resistance before we get to that main key level of daily resistance up there around 459.10 to 459.60 there on the SPY. But the biggest thing that I really want you paying attention to is the fact that we just cracked this uptrend. You've gone from the bullish side to the bearish side. And so right now we have more things suggesting there's some downside compared to upside. It doesn't mean I'm biased to the short side. It just means I see a few extra indications that suggest there is more of a higher probability chance that we drop compared to moving to the upside. But we always want to have that opposite plan in place just in case, because the market's going to do what the market wants to do. But I'm going to be keeping this key zone on watch right at the start of the day. That's our line in the sand, right? That's a make or break. And based on where we're currently opening, we're going to be opening right at that zone. So we may have a great trading opportunity right at the start of the day. So all of my focus here at 9:30 goes right here to the SPY, guys. Okay, because we're going to be opening right at that key zone of daily support. So the SPY gets all of my focus right at the start of the day. All right. Now, do you guys have any questions about the SPY, the zones, the levels, my analysis, my game plans? Want to make sure that you guys are really up to speed. You guys are super prepared, and you guys are ready to rock and roll. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, we'll go ahead and move into the cues, and then we'll talk about a few option plays that I have on watch for today as well. And then maybe if we have time, review some of your stocks that are on watch today. We will be looking at NVIDIA today. So for those of you asking about NVIDIA, I do see a potential swing trade with NVIDIA. So we will be reviewing NVIDIA. Just want to make sure that you guys don't have any questions regarding the SPY before we move on, guys. All right. Johnny, Tom, Frank, Jason, YouTube, anybody? Want to make sure you guys are all set. It makes sense. You guys are dialed in and that you guys are prepared. And then anybody inside of chat, let me know as well. And if so, we can always go back to it. But let's go ahead and take a little bit of a peekarooski here with QQQ. So something very similar with the Qs is we are sitting off this uptrend. It's not as clear as the SPY. I mean, look at the SPY. That uptrend is very clear. It's very obvious. We had a really nice connection point here in pre-market. You go take a look at the Qs. It's not as clear. It's not as obvious. But here are the touch points that I'm seeing here on QQQ. Same thing, go back into Thursday's low of day, and some traders would be asking, where do I connect the trend line? Do I connect the trend line right here off this low? That wouldn't be, wrong by any means, but I want to find multiple points where the stock has hit the trend line multiple times and respected it and validated it. And what I'm seeing is we came down into this initial low, hit the trend line, we bounced, we came below the trend line, but we got right back above it and put in a higher low off that trend line before ripping to the upside there on Friday. So that's going to be the trend line that I'm referencing and one trend line that I'm going to be using here on the Qs, just because we saw a couple decent points here on Friday. First initial point, we hit the trend line, we pushed to the upside. We fell below it right here, but we got right back above it. We regained that trend line with a higher low, and then we pushed to the upside. So right now, QQQ is coming down into that trend line here on pre-market. Let's see if that trend line is going to be respected here on the Qs. Okay, so I am going to be watching this uptrend to see if that trend line holds on up as support. If so, what could we see the Qs do today? Right? I would expect to see the Qs push back up and close the gap up into Friday's close. So the first main area of resistance here on the Qs would be back up into Friday's close at 389.94. So that blue line, 389.94, would be Friday's close. So if we see QQQ holding this trend line, okay, we do have potential to see the Qs push on up, close the gap up into Friday's close. That's at 389.94 here on QQQ. But if the Qs crack this trend line, just like the SPY did, right? The SPY, lower high, crack of the trend line. If we see QQQ do the same thing, right? Possible lower high, crack of the trend line, we would have room all the way back down towards this daily zone of support, which is between 385.80 and 386.08. That would be our first main area to the downside if we are getting short here on the Qs. So if the Qs bounce off this trend line, push on up a little bit, if we ever see a lower high forming and we ever crack this trend line, going from the bullish side to the bearish side, that's where I would be looking to play puts for the next leg down. You're talking maybe like $1 to $1.50 to the downside into that daily zone of support between 385.80 and 386.08. However, we always need to have an opposite plan in place just in case, because we don't know what the market's going to do. We don't know if the Qs are going to crack that trend line and dump today. What if that trend line holds on up? Well, let's have a game plan set in stone just in case that's what we see. So if we see the Qs open and we're hitting that trend line again, respecting it and validating it as support, I would expect to see the Qs push on up and close that gap up into Friday's close. That's going to be what I want to see to play calls today up to 389.94 here on the Qs, okay? And so the Qs may be opening right around this trend line. And the SPY is going to be opening, maybe, we still have, 37 minutes until the market opens. Anything could happen. We could be opening way down here on the SPY. But assuming, right, the market opened right now, hypothetically, the SPY is going to be opening in a key zone of support, and the Qs would be opening right at that trend line. So if we were to open right now, we would see some potential upside because we're both on the SPY and the Qs sitting off some pretty key valid support, all right? But again, we got 36 minutes until the market opens. Anything could happen. The Qs could already be down at that key level of support by the time the market opens, but I still want to keep the uptrend on watch here on the Qs because if we hold it, we have potential back up to 389.94. And I definitely want to keep the SPY on watch here at that key daily zone of support as well. Because if we hold it, we have room all the way back up to 459.10 and close these gaps before possibly seeing the market top out, roll on over, and before we start to see that potential next leg on down, guys. But one last thing that I want to do is I want to go grab some lower zones of support here on the Qs. Because if we crack the trend line on the Qs and we come down and crack this key zone of support, you know, how much lower could we go here on the Qs if that's what we see taking place today? I would come right back up against these lows here from 2 weeks back. So I would go from these two lows would be my first key area to the downside. It's a really tight, narrow zone. Very tight, very narrow, but those are going to be the next key level to the downside that I see. That's going to be between 384.24 and 384.29 would be the next area to the downside that I could see the, QQQ getting to. Again, that lower zone of daily support down between 384.24 and 384.29 here on the Qs. All right. Now, do you guys have any questions about the Qs or the SPY? Right? You got your guys all set, ready to rock. Game plans built, game plans established on both the SPY and the Qs. Now we just got to be patient, wait for the market to open on up, and really just wait for the market to come to us and really give us a great opportunity off these key areas that we will be, hopefully opening at within the next 30-some minutes, guys. All right? Do you guys have any questions regarding the Qs? Do you guys have any questions regarding the SPY before we move on to reviewing maybe Starbucks, NVIDIA? We got Oracle on watch, and then maybe Amazon on watch today as well. But before we move on, do we have any final questions regarding the SPY and the Qs in the game plans? Tom says he's all set. Phenomenal. Good stuff. Do we have any negative catalyst today for the SPY that's significant? We do not have anything on our radar as far as any kind of catalyst that could really move the market, right? Today at 10 o'clock, the only data that we really have is going to be factory orders month over month, but that's not the type of data that really moves the market. So do we have any upcoming catalyst that we got to be mindful of? We do not at this point in time. All right, so let's dive into my options watch list for today. We'll talk about some of these penny stocks that we have on watch as well. You got Bitcoin up at like 42K, which is insane. We'll be reviewing Bitcoin because I am long, pretty aggressive on some of these crypto-related stocks that I was telling you guys about like 30, 45 days ago. I'll be very curious to see how these things open today. I'm excited, to say the least. So I'm really happy to see Bitcoin finally topping 40K. And so we need to be watching a lot of these crypto-related stocks as well. A lot of my focus has been on a lot of these crypto-related stocks over the past, 30, 45 days. And I've been building some nice positions since that time. So I'll be really, really interested to see how a lot of these open on up, because a lot of these are going to be gapping up. Look at Coin. Coin's gapping up 10 points. My goodness. HUT was a reverse stock split, but we're still gapping up a little bit. Hive, gapping up a little bit. MARA, gapping up $1.60, almost $2 at this point in time. Take a look at RAOT, things up $1.50. BITF is up. BITO is up. And so these options are probably going to be opening in the money, it looks like. And I'm curious to see what these premiums look like. And maybe it's an opportunity to start taking a little bit of profit, not closing the position, but maybe trimming a little bit because these things are up pretty substantially, putting these options in the money. So we'll definitely review some of these crypto related stocks and give you guys the opportunity to start building out a watch list as well. All right, with these crypto related stocks, because when you see Bitcoin move, you see Ethereum move, you see these altcoins follow, eventually you see that trickle down effect and you see some sympathy movement with a lot of these crypto related stocks. So even if you're not trading crypto or an investor in crypto, but you want some exposure to Bitcoin or the crypto market when it's moving, when it's ripping like it is right now, there are quite a few stocks that you guys can have on a watch list. And when they move, and at least give you some exposure to the crypto market. But we'll talk about those here towards the end of the stream. Let's discuss Starbucks real quick, right? We've been watching Starbucks for the past, a few days now. And the one thing that I want to keep on watch today is the top end of this daily gap, which is up at $99.74. It's also right at $100 psychological resistance as well. And you take a look at that 200-day moving average, the 200-day moving average is right there at $100.35. So you got three key overhead zones of resistance on Starbucks, right? You have the top end of this daily gap, which is at $99.74. You have $100 psychological resistance, and you have the 200 SMA resistance as well. There is a lot of resistance overhead here on SBUX. And why do I like it? Not just because we have a lot of overhead resistance, but I also like it because we're officially inside of this daily gap. So we actually fell below the 200 SMA. We fell below $100. We fell below the top end of this gap, and we're officially inside of this daily gap right now at this point in time here on SBUX. So we're in the daily gap. I want to see if we can push back up and retest the top end of that gap before seeing that gap potentially get filled. So we cracked all of that support. We're officially inside of this daily gap. I would like to see a retest of the top end of this daily gap. I'd like to see a retest of $100, maybe come up and tap that 200 SMA as well. Nice little crack and retest to look to get short for a swing trade going, say, 30, 45 days out to see if Starbucks is going to top out, roll over, and actually come down and close this daily gap. And a close of the daily gap would put you down at $95.65 here on SBUX. So I definitely want to look to get short today as long as we stay below those three key levels of resistance, okay? And so one thing that we could do as well is we could actually run that gap on up into the gap up close, right? I had it run into the gap up low. We can run it up into the gap up close here, which is right at $100. So it makes more sense, right? You got $100 psychological resistance, top end of the gap going into that candle body, not the candle wick, but the candle body. And then it's going to be right underneath that 200-day moving average as well. As long as we stay below those three key levels of resistance, there is great potential that in the coming weeks, you see Starbucks all the way down at $95.65 to close that daily gap. So I definitely want to keep Starbucks on high watch for a possible day trade that most likely will turn into a nice swing trade. So just getting positioned correctly, going, say, 30 to 45 days out, probably grab $95 strikes, puts, and look to ride this on down over the next couple of weeks to see if we come down and actually close that daily gap. So Starbucks going to be on high watch to the short side for a potential daily gap fill, okay? Speaking of gaps, we got another beautiful gap here on ORCL, right? So ORCL, we have this gap between 117.70 and 124.80 here on ORCL. So it's the complete opposite of what I want to see with Starbucks. What I want to see with ORCL is get a break over that 117.70, come back and retest it, prove to me that it's going to stay inside of this daily gap zone, hold the bottom end as support, and then in the next couple of weeks, we may be able to see ORCL push all the way up to 124.80 and close that daily gap. So that's all I'm looking for here with ORCL. Okay, I just want to see if we can get above and hold above the lower end of that daily gap, which is at 117.70. 70. As long as we see ORCL getting above and holding above 117.70, that's going to validate that we have great upside potential to see ORCL come up and close that daily gap up towards around 124.80. Now, do I think that's going to happen in one single day? Absolutely not. Right? I do not think ORCL is going to have a 10-point move, an 8-point move to the upside. I think that's very unlikely. It's very unrealistic. But do I think this will confirm a day trade opportunity? Yes. Do I think that could possibly turn into a swing trade or a daily gap fill to the long side? Absolutely. So I definitely want to be getting positioned very similar like how I'm getting positioned with Starbucks, right? A great day trade opportunity that most likely will turn into a swing trade, right? So going 30, 45 days out, looking to see if we can come up and close this daily gap here on ORCL over the next couple of weeks, guys. So all we need to see is a break and hold over 117.70. Okay, as long as we see that break and hold over 117.70, and we have good opportunity to get long, we can look to get long for a nice little day trade that'll probably turn into a swing trade to see if ORCL is going to come up and close that daily gap up at 124.80, guys. Okay, so that's going to be another stock that I'm watching for today. And then lastly, I wouldn't say NVIDIA is a day trade opportunity. And I don't even think it's going to set up today, but I want to keep it on watch over the next couple of days. Because if we ever see NVIDIA push back up into this zone of resistance, which is between 476.16 and 477, and we also come up into this downtrend as well, I think we could see the next leg down here on NVIDIA, but we still have quite a bit of time before this even sets up. You're probably talking 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 or 4 more days, right, to see if NVIDIA actually sets up. And that trend line looks terrible, by the way, on the daily, but it looks a lot cleaner when you go into a 4-hour time frame. So we can all agree that we have a nice downtrend here on NVIDIA, right? We can all agree that we had a lot of prior resistance here. Resistance, we broke it, came down and hit it as support 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and we cracked below that key zone of support. If this is a crack and retest, I want to be looking to get short off that zone of resistance, and it just so happens to be right where that downtrend is as well. So that's a couple key areas that I do want to be keeping on watch here on NVIDIA. Looks like TradingView is lagging today big time. So couple key areas I want you to keep on watch. This downtrend, number 1. Number 2, this overhead zone of resistance between 476.16 and 477. Like I said, it's probably not going to play out today, but I just want to bring it to your attention so you guys can be, mindful and actually watch this if you guys do like trading NVIDIA or if you see something similar on NVIDIA as well. But I would say probably Thursday or Friday is probably when this thing would set up, if it even sets up in the first place. All we're looking to see NVIDIA do is push back up into that zone of resistance and retest it, and then also come up into this multi-week downtrend as well. If we ever see NVIDIA back up in the 476s towards the end of the week, hitting those 2 key points, that's an area where I'm going to be looking to get short for that possible next leg down. So again, not a day trade today. I don't think it's going to set up today. Absolutely not. But here come, end of the week, if we ever see NVIDIA back up at 476 into that zone of resistance and into that downtrend, that's going to be a key area that I'm keeping on watch, guys. All right. So a little bit of a swing trade that's on watch. Want to keep it on watch over the next couple of days, see how we're moving, see how we're developing. And if we do see it setting up Friday, you already know that I want to be looking to get shorts for a nice swing trade for the next leg on down here with NVIDIA, guys. Okay. And that zone is a pretty significant, pretty key zone of resistance, right? We see that that zone's been hit, several times. A lot of resistance back here, in like July, came back up, retested it here, just here in October. And then we see it was trying to turn into some very, very good, solid support, but we cracked below it. We come back up into it. I'm looking for the next leg down here on NVIDIA. So towards the end of the week, maybe we have confirmation to start getting in short for a nice little swing trade here on the video, guys. All right. So again, main focus, main watch of the day, the SPY and the Qs, right? Watching Starbucks for a possible entry back up around 100 for a nice little swing trade down to that 95.65 to close that daily gap. ORCL, pretty simple stuff. Looking for a break and hold over 117.70. Want to see it get inside of that daily gap. Hold the lower end of the daily gap. Another great swing trade opportunity to see if ORCL can close that daily gap up towards around 124.80. All right, and that's what I have on watch for the day, guys. You got Starbucks, you got ORCL, you got NVIDIA coming towards the end of the week as well, looking pretty decent. But my main focus here to start the day, guys, is going to be here on the SPY and here on QQQ as well. And take a look at that. The SPY is cracking below that key zone of support. If we open below that zone, push back up into it, and we see it's holding below as a resistance, that's going to be an area that I want to get short to place some puts for the next leg down here on the SPY, guys, because we are now below, that key zone of support, that line in the sand. We've cracked it. If we come back up and retest it, that's an area where I want to be looking to get short here on the SPY. All right, so most of my focus here on the SPY right at the start of the day, guys. Might have to shut down TradingView and reload it because it's really laggy today. All right. And basically where I got that key zone from was I was just looking back at these highs from last week. Not even last week, but the week before too. Wednesday's high. You had last week, Tuesday's high. You had a lot of resistance in that candle close here Thursday of last week. So that's why I was watching that zone as one of my key levels here on the SPY. Just because we've come up and hit that level once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, right? Break it. We held it. Nice big rip to the upside. We can see that that was a pretty valid, pretty key zone here on the SPY. So that's where I came up with that level, was just how we've been tapping it, the type of price action and price development that we've seen off that zone over the past, couple of weeks. So that's still a line in the sand here on the SPY. And right now, we're below it. We can see if it's going to turn into resistance. And if so, we already know we have some room back down into these lows from Friday, right around 455.35, and then all the way down into the low 454s. I would say, there's no catalyst, there's no news from what I see, but we were holding this nice uptrend here on the SPY over the last few days. We just came down this morning and hit it as support. We bounced, put in a lower high, and we've cracked it. We've gone from the bullish side of the trend line to the bearish side of the trend line. Right now, we have short sellers moving on in as we've just cracked that uptrend, and that is bearish. So I don't really see any news or any catalysts, but the biggest thing that I see is we just simply came into that trend line, bounced, cracked it, and now sellers are here right now at this point in time. So that's why we are seeing the SPY fade and fall. We're looking for a retest back up into that zone of key resistance to look to get short entries for that next leg down into the low 454s. The SPY gets all of my focus right at the start of the day, guys. All right. We got about 18 minutes until the market opens. Craig, you already beat me to the punch, man. Can you look at Tesla? Absolutely. I can definitely take a peek at Tesla here. See if we have anything in store. And look at all of that support on Tesla. The first thing that I want to go look at is Friday's low a day, Friday's open, and look at how it is just sitting right at all of this valid, strong daily support. So that is going to be a key level here on Tesla between 231.93 and 233.11. That is a very key, valid level of support on Tesla. Overhead resistance is going to be between 238.85, and 240.22, right? That was your gap, a little bit of a gap here from Thursday to Friday. You saw that big gap down. We came up and pretty much closed the gap. And now, what are we seeing here this morning? So, yeah, we're topping out at that level. We're curling on over. So, right now, again, I'm seeing room down to that daily zone of support between 231.93 and 233.11 here on Tesla. And I'm looking to see if there's anything else that really stands out to me on Tesla. I got a little bit of an uptrend here on Tesla, right? So, I mean, you go back into that low from like October 30th, connect the low here from November 10th. We do have a trend line that we're getting pretty close to on Tesla. So that would be like the next area of support. If we crack this lower zone of support between 231.93 and 233.11. So that trend line would be like the next area that I see here on Tesla that we could be getting down to. But I need to readjust that trend line just a little bit. That's the trend line. Whoa. That is insane. Yeah, I got to shut down TradingView. It's lagging. But go back into that low here from October 31st. Connect all of these lows here from like November 10th. And you can see that even if we crack this zone of support, the next key area of support will be back down into this multi-month uptrend here on Tesla. So that's what I would be kind of just waiting for to see what takes place, right? If we can crack that zone of support, I mean, you could look to get short down into the trend line, possibly, right? If we come down and hit that trend line and bounce, at least you know you want to get out of the short and then maybe think about flipping long, right, for a possible bounce off the trend line. And then the last thing is we still do technically have this gap on Tesla. There is still a technical gap here. We did not quite fill that gap on November 17th. So with that being said, there is still this little teeny weeny gap here on Tesla between 255.45 and 226.57, which surprisingly is actually in line with that trend line. So you got a gap that could be getting filled, and it's right in line with that trend line as well. If you take a look at it on the 1 hour, it's actually pretty clean. It's actually pretty clear. Depending on how we open the day, you could be coming down into that trend line, into that daily gap fill as well. So those are the two key areas that I would really be paying attention to here on Tesla. That multi-month uptrend and that potential daily gap fill down around 225.45 and 226.57 is a pretty solid level of lower support on Tesla. But your first area of very solid support is that zone just from the last week, right? We held that zone all of last week. That's between 231.93 and 233.11. That's your make or break, in my opinion, on Tesla. If Tesla comes on down into that zone and we hold on up, you have potential back up to 238.81 and then 240.10. We crack that zone and fall below that zone, you have room to come down and again close that daily gap, and that would also put you right around that multi-month uptrend as well, and that could be a great area that we see a nice big bounce there on Tesla. The last thing that you can do as well is grab a fib from swing low to swing high, right? From that swing low to that swing high, it's actually in your golden zone, the golden pocket, right? So that's going to be the area between the 61.8 and the 50% fib. Right in the middle is like the golden zone or the golden pocket, right? I don't really reference that, but it's surprising that that's also in that daily gap fill and the trend line. So you already have three pretty valid separate reasons that if we ever see Tesla down at that 225.45 level, closing that gap, hitting that trend line, golden pocket of the fib, that's going to be a decent area that we could see a nice potential bounce here on Tesla. So I would be keeping that on high watch for today and even for the rest of this week on Tesla. And again, that trend line's all jacked on the 5-minute. So you just got to continue to make your slight readjustments to it when you're looking at, like the 5-minute. Let's throw this into like a 15. Yeah, and just really connect your points. It's a little bit different when you take a look at the 15 with like pre-market, post-market on, and then with it off. So this trend line here, let's change the visibility, and let's take this off the hour, daily, weekly, monthly, and leave it just on our minute. So we have that trend line that we know it's clear. We could even go here and lock that trend line so it doesn't move. Go back into this time frame where we have this trend line, and then just take that off on the minute, only displayed on the hourly because that's the main one we're looking at here. And then again, come in here and lock it so we can see that those are still the two same trend lines. They're in line with the gap fill. This trend line, it's in line with that little gap fill as well, okay? Give me a second. I need to shut down TradingView because it is pretty spazzy. So let me shut it down, reload it, and we're all set, guys. I just got to get everything readjusted. So let's go in here. This is going to be only regular trading hours on. Hit OK. That looks good there. Daily time frame. Get those indicators back up. Turn the RSI on. Zoop, zoop. Like that on the daily. We're all set there. Back into our 5-minute. RSI's off. Indicators off. 1 minute. Indicator. Okay. We're all set. Perfect. So yeah, that's what I got for you, Craig, over on Tesla. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I do like Tesla. Let's keep that one on watch as well. Let's definitely keep Tesla on watch. It looks pretty decent. Where'd my trend line go? Oh no, my trend line disappeared. Oh no. Let's just, whoa. There we go. Let's grab that little beautiful trend line. Let's run it on up. Da, 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 da. Let's just change the visibility here. Make sure it's not on the hour, only on the minutes. So we're good on that. Here's our trend line here on the 1 hour, only on the hour, both intact. So when we go back and forth between lower time frame, higher time frame, at least we know that's the trend line and it's not being all jacked up. And then back into a 5 minutes. So we are all set with Tesla, man. Yeah, man, absolutely. How far back would you keep a fair value gap valid on SPY daily? I'm showing an FVG November 13th to November 14th. So here's the thing, Shannon, with FVGs. It's like I can identify them intraday, but I don't necessarily identify them on like a daily time frame. That's just me. And plus, it's nothing that I really apply within my trading or a part of my TA is fair value gap. So I don't know if I would be the right type of person to be able to answer that question for you. I think Corey can probably provide a little bit more context around it. If not, what I will do is I will do some research. I'll reach out to a few people that's within my network that do, you know, reference and trade fair value gaps, and I'll ask them, right? But I don't want to give you any like bad information because it's not something that I actually apply within my TA is identifying fair value gaps. But the biggest question is how far back would you validate it? That's a good question. Like if you're looking at the daily and you see one on the daily, for example, how far back would you validate it? That's a great question, and let me get you an answer on that question, man. But maybe Corey has a little bit more insight for you. I know he utilizes fair value gaps quite a bit more than me. And just from like my experience and exposure with even doing research into fair value gaps, for example, just so I have some baseline understanding to where you guys ask questions, I can't tell you that I've ever seen anybody reference a fair value gap on a daily. It's usually on just like your lower time frame. But again, let me reach out. Got quite a few people in my network, and I'll definitely drop this question to them, get a response, and see if we can get you the answer that you're looking for, boss. All right, we got about 8 minutes until the market opens. Do we have any other final stocks that you guys want reviewed right now at this point in time? Let me know. Let's make sure that you guys are all set, ready to rock and roll, okay? Penny stocks that will be on watch today, just so you guys know if there's any pennies. SSNT, right? If SSNT can hold above this 809 to 824 zone of support, we have potential back up to 10 and then room all the way back up into these pre-market highs. But I'd like to see if SSNT can hold above this zone between 809 and 824. It's also right into this trend line. Okay, so if you're watching penny stocks, keep SSNT on high watch. This is going to be a make or break. You got this third point of the trend line, right? There's point 1, there's point 2, there's point 3, and it's a key daily zone. It's a key daily zone between 809 and 824. And we see that it held as support beautifully, and now we're holding as support again, being that we got back above it. So you do have some confluence there. Point 3 of the uptrend, the hot stock, pulling back into some key daily support. Keep that area on high watch there on SSNT. This could give you a great entry right at the start of the day. You can put stops below like 775. Right, if you're looking for entries down around the low 8s off the trend line, off that daily zone of support, right? This is a boom or bust trade. It's either going to hit that level and rip, or it's going to hit that level and dump. So you want to keep stops nice and tight, maybe like 875, or I'm sorry, 775 stop loss. You're talking like 30, 40 cents of risk. You have what? The $2 to the upside, back up to $10. So you can get away with, say, 30 cents of risk, 40 cents of risk, call it 50 cents of risk. Let the sucker breathe. You got nearly $2 of upside potential here on SSNT, guys. Okay, so as long as we come down and hit that trend line, hit that zone of support, we do have great potential to $10 and see a nice little bounce off those 2 points here on SSNT. Pretty good risk reward as well. Penny stocks are hot lately. This stock is on fire right now at this point in time. Went from $4 to $14 within like an hour. This thing is hot. It's on fire. Keep it on watch. And then I will be watching ATHE possibly. ATHE was the trade that I called out this morning for the higher low break of the downtrend, right? The higher low break of the downtrend. And so it was off that zone around $7 as well. Why does that not look the way it did? Okay, here we go. It was the higher low break of the downtrend on ATHE. We broke this key daily zone of support, pushed up into these highs. We pulled back into that zone. We held it. We bounced. And I said, hey, if we put in a higher low off that zone, I'll be looking to get long for a higher low break of the downtrend. That's where I took this long, but there was just no follow through. I was up like $400 or $500 at one point. By the time I got out, I was only able to realize 165, right? We had a really nice higher low break of the downtrend, just no follow through. But I still think there is decent potential here with ATHE. And so if we can regain $5, regain it as support, we do have room back up to 650 and then $7. So if you guys are watching penny stocks, I would still watch ATHE as long as we can break and regain $5. Again, you have a lot of great potential back up towards around 650 and then $7. You're on ATHE, guys. So keep that one on high watch as well. You just want to see it get back above and hold above $5. Okay, but out of the gate, SSNT on high watch. Looking pretty good, looking pretty decent. As long as we stay above that 809 to 824 level, and as long as we hold this trend line as well, there's great potential to the upside right at the start of the day. So keep this one on high watch as well, guys. Good old Bitcoin. And then, yeah. So again, yeah, stocks like Coin, gapping up, Huts, Hive, MARA, RAOT. You got a lot of these stocks gapping up. So I'm curious to see what those options are doing. But to start the day, we are all over the SPY, guys. We got about 3 minutes until the day begins. Yo, what's up? What's up? Good morning. Welcome back. Hopefully you had a really good weekend. If you guys are on YouTube, appreciate you guys being here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. and really do hope you enjoyed the session for the pre-market rundown. Just taking this time to really try and help get you guys prepared, talk about the opportunities that I see, how I'm looking to get positioned in the market, what are my game plans, and really just hope you enjoyed these sessions and that it does help you really get prepared and build up some confidence, ready to attack this day. So have a great day. Stay blessed. Trade smart, trade safe over on YouTube. And then I will see you back here tomorrow morning at 8:30 for the pre-market rundown once again. So take care, guys. Have an amazing day, and I'll catch you back here tomorrow. Kevin, what's up, man? Brandon, Stir. What's going on, guys? Good morning. Kevin dipped. He's like, oh, he said good morning. Dipping. What's up, buddy? How you doing? So it looks like you had a really good, productive, solid week last week, man. How you feeling overall with just last week, staying disciplined? Like, how does it feel coming into this week? Yeah, and I'm sure that's got to be a lot different. Going from maybe 3 to 5 to 1, you're like, whoa. I mean, but it's a huge step in the right direction, man. No, if you're trading into Q, I mean, you can grab 10, 20 points, and that's still a really good trade, man. Exactly. And I mean, you've made, your weekly goal, 2 weekly goal in a single trade when you find that base hit that just turns into a home run, man. But these base hits add up. So, like, you had another great trade this morning. Oh, yeah. Nice, dude. Adding to the winner.